Hey guys, and welcome back to Science with Kennen, Quarantine Edition, where we've got no lab, no pants, but plenty of science. Get ready for some more Viruses Made Easy. In our last episode, we talked about coronaviruses, but to be honest, kind of getting tired of hearing about them. Plus, all those other viruses out there, they're starting to get lonely that we're not talking about them. So today, we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite viruses. A virus so notorious that it may be responsible for starting legends of creatures like vampires, zombies, and werewolves. Ha ha ha. Very funny, Glovey. Can you guys guess which virus we're talking about today? Here's another hint. This virus invades our nervous system, infecting our brains to cause symptoms like hallucination, aggression, confusion, and even a fear of water. Can you guess what I'm talking about now? Hey, knock it off, Glovey. You're starting to act like a rabid animal. Alright, here's one more hint for you. Hey, back off, Glovey, I'm trying to talk. But, what are you doing? What are you... This week, we're talking about rabies. Rabies is an infection of our nervous system that causes a swelling and eventual shutdown of our brain and body. The disease is typically characterized by a gradual progression of symptoms, from a fever and headache to aggression, confusion, excessive drooling, and eventually, death. The disease rabies is caused by an infection from a virus known as the Rabiesvirus, or RabV. That seems like a convenient name. Isn't it though? The rabies virus causes rabies. So where does rabies come from? Well, the rabies virus is spread by mammals, but it can be found in all sorts of animals, from cats to cows, humans to camels. But it's most commonly found in raccoons, skunks, bats, and foxes. However, can you guess which animal causes the most infections of rabies in humans? The answer is dogs. Globally, rabid dog bites are the most common cause of rabies transmission to humans, accounting for 99% of all human rabies cases. 99%! Luckily, with laws making vaccines mandatory for our pets and federally funded programs to distribute vaccine pellets to the wildlife, the risk of contracting rabies here in the United States and many other places around the world has greatly decreased over the years, including the complete elimination of dog-transmitted rabies cases to humans here in the United States, Canada, and Western Europe. That being said, there are still nearly 60,000 people each year who die from rabies worldwide. And here in the United States, even though rabies is no longer transmitted by dogs, we still treat over 50,000 cases of rabies in humans from other animals. Okay, so rabies comes from animals, but how does it get into humans then? Usually through a bite. The rabies virus is spread through the saliva of an infected or rabid animal, although the virus itself can't actually penetrate our skin, which means that just touching a sick animal won't get you infected, although I wouldn't recommend trying that out. Since the virus can't penetrate our skin, it needs an opening, like a scratch or a big slobbery bite, in order to get in. Once past the skin, the virus can reproduce in the cells around the bite, but its real goal is to find its way into a neuron. What's a neuron? Great question, Other Kennen. Neurons are the main cell type of our nervous system. You can think of them like long wires that send messages to and from our brains. Our nervous system is divided into two basic categories. The central nervous system, which contains the neurons in your brain and spinal cord, and our peripheral nervous system, which contains the neurons that extend out from your central nervous system into the rest of our body. Our central nervous system is what runs the whole show, sending out the signals that allow us to move, breathe, and generally stay alive, while also receiving the signals from our peripheral nervous system that allow us to think, smell, and interact with the world around us. What rabies really loves about your nervous system, though, is that it's all interconnected, like a giant network of highways spanning across your entire body and all leading straight to your brain. Once the rabies virus gains access to your neuron, it's free to replicate and spread from neuron to neuron until it reaches your brain. The amount of time that it takes for the rabies virus to travel from the site of the bite into the brain where it causes symptoms is known as the incubation period, and it can happen as quickly as in a few days to as long as a few months or even a year. Fun fact though, since the virus has to travel along a connected route from neuron to neuron, the amount of time that it takes for the virus to get to your brain and cause symptoms is directly related to how far away the bite was initially from your head. So what happens once it's in my brain? At that point, it's game over, my friend. You mean? One of the things that makes the rabies virus so scary is that once the symptoms set in, indicating that it's made it to your brain, the virus is virtually 100% lethal. 100%? 100% fatal. That's why it's extremely important to go in and see a doctor if you suspect you've been bitten by a rabid animal. Because once the symptoms set in, it's too late. So what are these symptoms and what causes them? Do I have it? While the pathology of rabies still isn't completely understood, what we do know is that once the virus makes it to your brain, things start to get crazy. Literally. Once in the brain, the virus goes into replication overdrive, making lots and lots of new rabies viruses. These new viruses go on to do one of three things. Number one, the virus starts to interfere with our neurons, causing the messages between them to get distorted and jumbled, which causes the victims, be them human or animals, to start feeling disoriented and confused, maybe even a little agitated. This can result in the telltale psychological symptoms we see, including confusion, hallucinations, and even aggression. Second, the presence of the virus can cause immune cells to rush into your brain, causing further swelling and damage, which we know as encephalitis. This typically is never good and can result in the patient going into a coma. And thirdly, new rabies viruses start to travel back out from your brain into the rest of the tissues in your body, with a special focus on your salivary glands, where they can mix with your spit and be transferred on to a new host as you bite out in your delusional state. Wait a minute. You're telling me that this rabies virus targets the brain and starts to shut it down while making you more aggressive and crazy and likely to bite people? Pretty much. So this thing's like a real-life zombie virus. It kind of is. There's another crazy vampire-like symptom that comes with rabies as well, known as hydrophobia, or a fear of water. It turns out this isn't because rabies is secretly an evil spirit that possesses its victims. Be gone, Glovey! It's actually because during the late stages of infection, the rabies virus starts to infect the neurons that control our ability to breathe and swallow, making it so painful to do these things that even the sight of something that might make you involuntarily swallow, like a glass of water, becomes so scary because you don't want to do it. At this point, the victim doesn't have much more time to go. The swelling in their brain and spinal cord will ultimately push them into a coma. And as the signals to the rest of their body begin to fail, so will those to their heart and lungs, eventually causing them to die. A long, slow, painful death. Wow, Science Kennen. Well, if your goal was to scare the crap out of everybody and leave us on a depressing note, great job. You nailed it. Do you at least have something positive you could tell us? There is. The whole point of studying dangerous diseases like these is so that we can understand the viruses and use that information to learn to protect ourselves and fight them off when we have to. In the case of rabies, we've made two major advancements. The first was the development of a vaccine against the virus in both humans and animals. The vaccine works by introducing a dead version of the virus to your body. Since the virus is dead, it can't hurt you. However, it allows your immune system to see what the rabies virus looks like, so it's ready to fight it off if it ever sees the real thing in the future. Typically, humans don't get preventative vaccines unless you work in an industry that's at risk for high exposure. But by giving the vaccine to our pets, we can actually reduce the ability of the virus to be transmitted to them, who are the most likely creatures to give rabies to us. Simply by vaccinating our pets, we've drastically reduced the number of rabies cases here in the United States. And more importantly, we've reduced the numbers of rabies-related deaths to less than 5 a year. The second advancement we made was in our post-exposure treatment, or the way that we treat patients after they've been exposed to the rabies virus. Remember, once the virus makes it to the central nervous system, it's almost always fatal. However, if it can be caught soon enough, then the virus can be stopped. One way to do this is to cut the limb off above the side of the bite. What? That's the treatment? I thought you said this was going to be positive stuff. Alright, yeah, that may be a last-ditch effort. If you ever find yourself stranded in the early 1800s or some past time when your time machine takes you back, or if you're ever a few weeks away from a hospital. But if that's not you, then you could probably just go to a hospital? Alright, that sounds more reasonable. Where they'll cut off your arm with a knife. No! Okay, just kidding. The actual steps for treating rabies are quite simple. You start by cleaning the bite with hot, soapy water. The soap and vigorous scrubbing will help to remove any excess viruses and bacteria from the wound. Then your next step is to go into the hospital. At the hospital, they'll give you 2 shots. The first is a dose of the vaccine we talked about earlier. This will jumpstart your immune system and allow it to recognize the rabies virus so it can start fighting it before it gets into your nervous system. The second is a dose of human rabies immunoglobulins, or HRIGs. These are antibodies against the rabies virus made by someone else, which will bind the virus and slow its ability to spread, further giving your immune system a head start. Together, wound cleaning, HRIGs, and a series of rabies vaccine shots are collectively known as post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP, and they've been shown to be nearly 100% effective at stopping the rabies virus. 100%? 100%. Think about that. Scientists were able to take a virus that kills virtually everyone who gets infected with it, study it, and design a treatment that can now save nearly everyone who gets infected with it. Think about that. Scientists were able to take a virus that kills virtually everyone who gets infected with it, study it, and design a treatment that can now save nearly everyone who gets infected with it. That's what science is all about. Alright, well, thank you for making it to the end, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if not, well, I hope you at least learned something. As always, if you have any questions or even any feedback, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message. I make science with Kennen because I personally think that it's fun, but I like to think that it's more fun when we both enjoy it. So, until next time, as always, friends, stay awesome and keep curious.